U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops is holding its spring plenary assembly in Orlando, Florida this week, and several items are on the agenda. Among the items on the agenda, church leaders will discuss health care and the Eucharistic Revival. They will also look into the canonization cause for 5 priests who died in the 1870s while ministering to the sick in Shreveport, Louisiana. And we go now to Mark Irons, reporter for EWTN News In Depth, who is in Orlando right now covering the assembly. Mark, great to have you back on. The public meetings, they don't start until tomorrow, but I know the bishops have arrived already. Mark, what can you tell us about that?
Well, that's right, Tracy. Just for some background, these annual summer meetings of the bishops happen in a different city each year in between their annual meeting in the fall, which is really the big meeting in Baltimore for the bishops. But this gives them a chance in between that meeting to come together and discuss items of importance to life in the church. And right now here in Orlando, I'm next to a conference center where hundreds of bishops have begun to gather. Some of them have been here for days in closed-door committee meetings, but they had the first big formal gathering today where they all came together. Of course, public sessions will start tomorrow. That will give the chance for viewers to tune in. These meetings will be live streamed, so if people are interested in what the bishops are doing, they can tune in. Those will be on Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, Mark, we also mentioned the ongoing Eucharistic Revival. What do the bishops have to say about that? And, you know, what's their hope as it continues?
Right. Well, Tracy, as one bishop pointed out, the Eucharist Revival is a big item of discussion this week for the bishops. And just to give context, we're right in the middle of a multi-year effort led by U.S. bishops, inviting parishes around the country to increase love and devotion for Christ's presence in the Eucharist. And we're about a year out from a national Eucharistic Congress that will take place in Indianapolis. It will be open to the public. So they'll talk about planning and preparation for that. But the main point that's been made to me is that the bishops hope this Eucharistic Revival is not a top-down sort of a programmatic approach to teaching about the Eucharist that has a start and end date. The Eucharist is the source and summit of our faith, and the bishops want this really to spark a fire, a love for the Eucharist amongst the laity, really more devotion and increased love for the Eucharist, and they're hoping this Eucharistic Revival will just continue that.
Yeah, and I know they'll also be voting on a few things and discussing other big events in the life of the church. Mark, what else is ahead, you know, for them over the next couple of days in Orlando?
Well, as you mentioned, 2 other big events in the life of the church. On the global level, the church is in the midst of this Synod on Synodality led by Pope Francis. And then in a few months here, we'll be having World Youth Day, so they'll update the American church on that. They'll also be voting on a number of items, like you said, including the approval of different liturgical texts. Also, one item that was pointed out to me by one bishop, they're going to begin a process of drafting a new pastoral statement addressing persons with disabilities in the life of the church. And this is important because the current document they have is quite dated. It actually was published in 1979, so they think it's time for a renewal, an update on catechesis involving persons with disabilities. And one important thing is that they want people to see persons with disabilities not just as recipients of the church's goodness, but active participants. They're just as much a part of life of the church as anybody else. And I think in this document they will try to convey that. But right now they're just voting on the process to begin drafting a new document. So Tracy, we'll continue following all the latest here in Orlando at the bishops' meeting.
All right, Mark, thank you so much for that report. We appreciate it. Mark Irons, reporter for EWTN News In Depth. Thanks again.